Here's a video on how to do Part B of the 2019 STM Lab Assessment. Right, using Papyrus, calling your project B, draw a UML activity diagram representing the pizza chef's process. 1. Make the pizza base. 2. Add each topping in turn until there are no more toppings to add. 3. Cook the pizza. Use opaque actions and use opaque expressions in natural language, not in OCL. Include initial and final nodes. Okay. So we need a UML project called, a Papyrus project called B, containing a UML activity diagram. New Papyrus project called B. It's going to contain an activity diagram. Here we go. It's going to have an initial node. And just by convention I don't give them any names, so I'll delete that. And it's going to need a final node. Don't confuse activity final with flow final. And what else? It needs some opaque actions. We're going to have to make the pizza base. And in the end we're going to have to cook the pizza. Always do the easy part first. Now, I think I'm just going to do all the edges at the end for the sake of this video. Your mileage may vary. I'm going to have to add a topping, but I'm only going to want to add a topping if there still are some toppings to add. And then after each time I add a topping, I'm going to have to go back and check whether there are any more toppings to add. So that's going to require a decision node and a merge node. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to need a decision node to decide whether there still are any more toppings, and we're going to have a merge node to go back into after we have added a topping. And even though those look exactly the same, they're different in the model, so we need to be a wee bit careful about that. Now let's put our edges in. Control flow. From the initial state to make the pizza base. Now, from the make the pizza base to the merge node, normally we go straight through there, as happens when you go through a merge node. From the merge node to the decision mode. From the decision mode to add topping, and also from the decision mode to cook the pizza. Got that? No, didn't work. Let's click again. From the decision mode to cook the pizza, in the other case where we haven't got any more toppings to add. And finally from cook the pizza to the final node. Okay. But we haven't quite dealt with this, because after add the topping we have to go back to the merge node so that we can go to the decision mode again to see whether we need to add any more toppings. So let's go from, there are other ways to do this, but I think this is the conventional way. Right, it doesn't look terribly pretty, and I did try laying it out more prettily in the preceding video, but it didn't work very well, so I'm just going to leave it like this. I think this is good enough. Now the only thing we need, I'm going to save what I've done so far by going Control S just to avoid disaster. The only other thing we need now is our opaque expressions to decide what's going to happen, and the only point at which there's anything to decide is after our decision node, at which we have to say what is the condition that determines whether we go that way to add a topping or that way to cook the pizza. Well, it's obviously just whether there are any more toppings to add. So let's go and click on that transition, and we're going to add a guard to it. We're going to add a guard, and we were told to use an opaque expression. So I'm going to use an opaque expression. Please select a language first. I will select a language. This is the hardest part of this question. There has to be a hard part. Otherwise I get into trouble. But hopefully it wasn't too hard. And it doesn't too much matter what I call it, provided it's understandable. I'm going to call it need another topping. If I give that OK, then you see it appears in square brackets. I think I will move it just to somewhere where it's slightly more clear that it's attached to that transition, but you can actually see it's got a wee connector to tell us semantically that that's where it belongs. Now then we need to do the same again to this one. Let's give this one a guard, which is again an opaque expression. It's again going to need not Java, natural language. And let's call it no more toppings needed. Okay, and that one's fine. And that is my activity diagram done.